You doing now?
I am well. How about yourself?
I can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Already admiring the art.
Thank you. Yeah. We're doing what we're doing down here.
So I'm a huge fan of art. So I'm super excited about this Culture Meets Money session. So I want to dive right in. But before,
Okay.
I always tell people I'm horrible at introductions because we interview so many amazing, great people. So if you'll take the time to please introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Okeeba Jubalo. Um, fine artist, gallery owner, publisher, jack of many trades and everything. So I always tell people it's a lot easier to either Google me or go to okeebathemayor.com to get a snapshot of who I am and what I've done. And you and I actually were connected through somebody that's near and dear to both of us. It's Tracy Green.
That's my cousin. Yes.
No, yeah. So I'm Okeeba down here in Charleston, South Carolina.
She's one of my favorite cousins, but I'm gonna say that because we're on live, and she can always go back and say that. But we'll talk about it later.
All right, that's cool.
All right, so tell us off top, how did you get into art? Because art is such a science, it's such a creative piece. How and why did you get into art?
It's one of those things where, from like childhood, that's something that was whenever I would get in trouble, I would get in trouble and would have to go to the bedroom and be on restriction, and I would always draw things, and that was just something that came natural. And a lot of my family, actually my family in Mississippi, my grandmother, I have aunts and uncles who were very talented with their hands, but they never pursued it professionally. So it was just one of those things where it was a process of evolution where it always made sense to me. And even today, it's just like if all else fails, I know I can rely on my artistry. And so one thing leads to another. I found myself getting into certain situations in the streets that wasn't exactly the best options out there, but it was definitely one of those things where art was my safety net. And I went to art school, the Art Institute of Atlanta, graduated from there, also University of Louisville. And I knew going into the game, I wasn't really interested in that whole starving artist narrative at all. I wasn't into that whatsoever. And my only point of reference was really JJ from Good Times. And JJ stayed in the projects his whole life. You know what I mean? So I knew I didn't want no parts of that. You know what I mean? But and one thing leads to another. Once you look at the business of art, and also making sure that you're not a statistic in that space. I have a certain business IQ that makes a lot of sense and makes a lot of dollars with the art. So it just kind of evolved from there. Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm a huge fan of art. I actually didn't want to go to college. I wanted to do art because my dad was like, no. My dad, funny enough, told me I was going to be a bartender if I chose to do art.
Wow.
I mean, small town. He didn't understand the ins of real art and how they're selling for millions of dollars these days.
Right.
Not want to be a starving artist and having the business IQ, especially in the South in general. I think it's a Bible Belt. It's a Southern thing. What made you be like, I don't really care that people aren't familiar with this. I don't care that people aren't, because now it's very different, but even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we don't talk about art the way that I feel we talk about art today. Step out and be like, I'm not going to be a starving artist, but this is what I want to do.
It was honestly one of those things where I knew I had to make a play, and it's one of those things where when you have to make a play, you're going to make a play. And I'm blessed to be in a position where I can pursue all of my artistic talents. So I'm also a musician, poet, photographer, videographer, graphic designer, executive creative director. So I had to figure out, like, when you take that energy, that creative energy, because you can do whatever you want with it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like water. You can freeze it, you can steam it, you can let it run. And once I understood that, then I understood that I could shift into these different roles. But it was one of those things where I know, like if you hold on to it, you can make it work, but you have to be committed. Come rain, sleet, snow, shine, you have to be committed. It's just like a child. It's just like a marriage. It's just like any aspect of your life. If you're committed, you'll make it work. And I didn't have any choice. There was no plan B and the cavalry wasn't coming. So I had to make that thing work, and that's still my approach today. There's only one option, and that's succeeding.
I love it. So it's interesting because culture meets money is all about the connection of our culture to ownership and money.
Mm-hmm.
And today, even like in the hip hop culture, we're seeing Diddy, Jay-Z, Swizz Beatz, Pharrell, all talking about art, investing in art. How do you, for the everyday person now who is getting into and understanding fine art, let's talk about both sides, your side and the consumer side. What are your thoughts or what are your recommendations when people now want to invest in fine art?
Well, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, with our community, and when I say our, I mean the brown community, brown and black community, is that we don't understand that we can actually control the market. So what ends up happening is that, like, you got Jay-Z, you have these other cats buying at the top end, but they don't even fully understand that they have the power to create the next Basquiat or the next Mark Bradford or the next Kara Walker or the next. They have the power. So we have the power. And what I mean by that is that if we select, let's say, 20 artists that we're going to plug, we purchase their work at this space, right? But once we plug them, their work ascends and the value goes up. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say we put together a collective and everybody decides to buy these 10 artists and then we promote it down all our pipelines. What ends up happening then is the value actually goes up. So that's the part that we don't quite get and don't quite understand. So it's one thing to purchase at the front end, but it's a different thing to purchase when they're starting. Or I say at the heavy end, to purchase like when they're starting before they become that, because unfortunately the industry understands that. So like a Basquiat will sell for millions, but you can have a Tom Best, you can have a Jerusha Graham, any of these artists that are in the gallery now who are proven, tried and true. And if we decide to put them in those spaces, then we can control the value. So that's a big part of my business model. It's saying that, hey, we have the power to create the next art stars and we can go ahead and do it. So it's just through education and the willingness to be educated. That's the other part.
Can you dive a little bit deeper into, you talked about the value going up, because we have assets, liabilities, depreciating assets, that's a topic. But I think a lot of times art is left out of.
Yeah.
Can absolutely just skyrocket. And you spoke a little bit about, a little bit. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that when it comes to art and the amount of money it can, how and why it's a great investment? When you say that,
I'd say it's a great investment when it's strategic. So if you're purchasing art that may be out in the park, because you have different leads. So you have like a gallery, then you have those, when you go to these festivals outside and that whole part and piece. The outside spot is like playing basketball at the YMCA. That's different than being in a gallery. And then you have your tiers of galleries. So when we look at like the investment part of it, really it does boil down to just strategically picking as a group who will support, who will lobby to go ahead and place in these museums. So and I'll give you like a numbers idea. So let's say if it's a certain piece like Jerusha Graham may cost $5,000, right? And if me, you, 20 of us buy that piece at $5,000 each, and then we promote it. What's going to happen is that same piece will go up. So it goes from 5 to 8 to 10 to 20. And the more popular Jerusha becomes, your $5,000 investment is now worth $100,000. But we have to strategically do the work. Like white folks understand it. And within the industry, they understand, they create the art stars and we get priced out of the market. So when you look at anybody, Mark Bradford, Kara Walker, Radcliffe Bailey, a number of different black artists who are at a certain space now, had we gotten in on the front end, now that these works are worth 100, 200, Mark Bradford's pieces are selling for millions of dollars. Had we gotten in on the front end, you'd have something in your house that's easily worth multiple millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really, it does boil down to this education and the willingness to work together as a collective.
When you I want to stay a little bit on that topic a little bit more. So it's now, once again, not as educated. Most people are not as educated in this space. If we do find the education now, it's through the hip hop culture. You know, we kind of both talked about the Pharrell, the Swiss Beats, the Jay-Z, speaking now more about art and investing in art. You spoke as a collective how if we focus on those 1 to 5 Black artists, their work, how it makes, you know, we're talking about it's buying it at 10 and it's worth 100 or then it's worth 5 or a million. How do, if, because you're in this industry, what is your recommendation or strategically should we be buying those who are lesser known and focusing on them, or should we try to buy more middle market? Like, what is your recommendation? Because there's so many people who are looking now to invest more. They don't even know where to start. So, what is your one who's well known, lesser known?
Yeah, I would say start at OkeebaJubaloGallery.com. Start there. Once you start there, you know, it's the education component behind it, because it's just like property. You know, you can buy something in the hood and it may take 10, 20 years for it to flip. But when it flips, you know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things where we don't have to roll the dice on it, because as a collective, we can strategically make it flip. You know what I mean? So that's the difference with the art. We don't honestly have to sit and wait on it to flip over. Like I said, if it's 10 of us, 20 of us, 100 of us who decide on the next art stars, we can control that. You know what I'm saying? That's the part that I push in the business, saying we can control it. We don't have to wait. We can create the market. And when we create the market, we decide on who's next. So once we get that person over to, let's say 100,000 plus, then we do the same thing all over again. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest part about the educational component, is that honestly, we can control it. We don't have to wait. So I would say if you're looking to get into it, start there, contact us so we can coach you down the road and also walk you down the road, because the artists that we work with are grade A. You know, but it's just like any industry, you have to have a machine behind you in order for it to move forward. You know, but that's the goddamn truth. This is one of the few industries that we can actually control.
Love that. So I can speak for myself. I love art. I love art, but I want to see my art like hanging on my wall. I want to go like just stand in front of it and just stare and just admire this amazing work. Now we're coming to a time where people are preferring a digital copy, shall I say, or what we know as NFTs, which is pretty well known in the art space. One, I want to get your thoughts first on NFTs when it comes to art.
I think it's one of those things where when we look at my market is the African American market. So not saying that I only sell to African Americans, but I focus on Black art. And it's one of those things where we're unfortunately in the business of art, we're 50 years behind around the board. So by the time we jump to an NFT, we hadn't even done the groundwork. You know, that's like taking a foreign language. So we haven't even done Spanish 101 before you get to advanced Spanish. You know, so it's one of those things where I would say focus on 101, but move it forward. And I get it, but it's kind of like the music industry, to be honest. When you look at one point in time, we sold CDs out the trunk, and we sold CDs in the record stores, and now you have to rely on digital downloads. But when you're looking at the digital downloads, you can't police that as a musician. You have there's no level of transparency. You just have to take the word of Apple, Spotify, whoever the platform, you just got to take their word. And how does that normally work out for artists? When you just take the word of it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So I get the NFTs and I like an aspect of it, but also, you know, I firmly believe that we need to deal with our foundation and then move forward from there.
I equate that over to just general finance. People ask me all the time about crypto. Yeah. So you gotta teaching them crypto, they don't understand the basics of, you know, other side of money. It's gonna be sometimes be an issue. So I do agree with you on that. For artists, so let's talk about the other side of this. You have a gallery, you're helping artists get out there, sell their art. For artists who are in that phase of they don't have a connection to you, or they're in their starving artist phase, what is your advice to find someone like you, like your gallery? Or what is your advice to start to sell and actually profit from art?
I'd say one of the biggest things that artists should do is look at it like a business. Separate the passion, look at it like a business. So if you're opening up a restaurant, guess what? You need to go get a business loan. You need to go get a line of credit. You need to go get the financial parts and pieces for the business to work. Unfortunately, with artists, we just look at the passion and the product. We don't look at the business of the product. And those are two totally different things. You know what I'm saying? The business of art versus the art, two totally different things. So I would say one big part is either find you a sound partner who's sound in the business aspect, who can speak on your behalf, who can go into the gallery spaces, who can court the gallery spaces. Cause it's one of those situations where it's just like it's a shallow industry. And I'll give you an example of what I speak about. I never dress like an artist, even though I'm an artist, multidisciplinary artist. I never dress like an artist because the second I dress like an artist, I allow for the public to play me a certain type of way because we think, oh, he's just an artist. Second I come in here suited and booted, you have to shift immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because now you understand, oh, he's about his business. So it's those tricks in the space that would make it work and be committed to, because it's not it's not a quick hit. It's not a quick flip. That's not what any of it is, you know? So I would say be prepared to get a mentor, be prepared to work under somebody with ethics and morals and context. Like I said, I'm not hard to find. I'm really not, you know? So you would do better to contact me and I can at least point you in the right direction in comparison to just going out there and just winging it. You know, you could do that too.
So does location matter? Now, mind you, we're in a space now. You can hop on a plane, a train, a bus, car. You can Zoom meetings, ID talks. But you're in South Carolina.
Right.
You feel that when it comes to art, and in particular, the more of putting spotlight on Black and brown artists, do you feel that location matters? Because most time people think art or museums are thinking Miami. They're thinking, do you feel that the location matters?
Yeah, I say the location matters, but it's one of those things where you take my 30 years in the game and I'm from Charleston, and you take all of what I accomplished before I got here. And then you take Charleston being one of the original ports for Black people and for the Black experience. Like I came here, I'm from here, but I came here with a real strong strategy attached to my movement. You know, so I wouldn't recommend Joe Blow who wants to be an artist just move to South Carolina, but the digital game and the branding and the marketing and all those parts and pieces can elevate the whole deal. But it is one of those things where location does matter because it's like your backdrop. The second I say Charleston, you know, there's a certain feeling that people, you know, whether it's good, bad, or, oh, I love Charleston, the beach, or the Black experience. And plus, when we're looking at this African-American museum that's opening up next year here in Charleston, all this stuff was a strategy. You know what I mean? But it is one of those things where I would say location doesn't matter if you handle your business or your branding and your marketing. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't, I know people in New York starving to death. I know plenty of people in Atlanta, amazing artists starving to death. You know, so it's just like, it's more so about the culture that you're surrounded. Because Atlanta, unfortunately, is a very, to use as an example, as far as like so much talent, Atlanta has an amazing body of talent as far as executing the art, but it doesn't have like an amazing body of leadership in the art sector. So nonprofit, gallery spaces. And the culture of Atlanta doesn't really support purchasing art. They love having a good time coming to the art events. But as an artist, you're not making money off of people ticket sales unless it's your event. So those are just certain things you got to know going into it or learn quickly.
With that, I am curious of your thoughts. I mean, I'm a spectator. I'm on the outside, but you are in it. Where do you see Black art for artists, and where do you see Black art for the consumer going in the next 5 to 10 years as far as what it's worth, the popularity of it, the education of it? Where do you see Black art going?
I would say with the proper leaders like a Maya Bailey, myself, Maya's in Atlanta, myself, there are a handful of art leaders in this space who not only focus on the art, but we focus on the good business of art. So 5 to 10 years, 20 years, if it's done right with a collective effort, we will be fine because we've always created as a people. In a sense, we have always created. So the thing is, like, when we look at the business of it, that's a different thing. And in order for the business to work, we have to partner with institutions like yourself, who focus on financial wealth and financial health. We have to connect the dots, because if we don't connect the dots and we just keep it in a silo, we keep it in our community, it's going to fall short because we can't solely rely on those parts and pieces to earn a living and to thrive. So long story short, I say it's going to be fine if we do our parts as a collective. It's not going to be fine if we don't do our parts as a collective, but we'll keep creating them. Make no mistake about that. We'll keep doing it.
For sure. So I know we're coming up on time, but I want to ask this question for people who are watching now, watching later, for those who are interested, heard about it. If you were to recommend someone who is interested in investing and buying art, not necessarily where do you start, we kind of touched on that. What should be the price point that you would recommend a first-time person, not necessarily knowing the ins and outs of art, but they're hearing how art is an investment? What's that price point that you recommend someone starting at?
Honestly, you can go from anywhere from $300 on up, to be honest with you, because you have some artists who may make a $50,000 piece, but they may have a sketch that's worth, that they sell for $300. So your point of entry can be as little as $300. We have pieces in here that start at about $350, and they roll from $350 to $7,000. But that $7,000 isn't our cap. It's just starting in this market, because some of our artists do pieces for $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000. But I wanted to stay within a window, saying we need to be at $350 to $7,000. So you can start at any point, but the key is to buy smart. Speak to someone who can coach you down the road to know the difference between an investment piece and just a piece that you like. Because those are two totally different things. And like I said, contact OkeebaJubaloGallery.com. We'll get you right.
Is that understanding which piece to buy? Because I know often, even when I'm looking to buy art, you find the ones that are the original art pieces, and then you find the ones where they're selling 50 copies of their art. Can you talk briefly about the difference and why you should or shouldn't buy one or the other?
Yeah, so when you look at the limited edition prints, that's the 50, 1 of 50, 2 of 50, 3 of 50. That's not a bad play, but understand you're not getting the original. But if you look at your investment, like let's say if you have a print that's $1,500, right? And it's 1 of 15. That's not bad. Just like we own some prints from a number of different artists, like well-known artists. That's not a bad play, because that's all that was made for that particular play. However, if you want the original, and instead of, let's say, $1,500, it might cost you $3,500 for the original, understand that that's going to be worth more if you buy the right artist. So the main thing is just looking at what your budget is and being able to plan for it. Like, we sign our names on houses, cars, handbags, and everything else that depreciates, but the art game, and even when we look at like quilts that our grandmothers made back in the day, those are made and worth some money now. We just don't know. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at, shout out to my grandmother from Mississippi, Mom Stella, all the kids got quilts made. I have mine over here in the gallery. I've had mine for 40 plus years, and it's worth some change. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. Honestly, it just comes to education and being coached, just like a financial coach. Yep. You know what I'm saying? You have to have a right coach that can guide you down the process. So I would buy, just save up your money. And like I said, $300 can get you into the game.
Got it. Love it. All right. So before we let you go, we have 2 questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The first one is, what is a money hack or a money fact when it comes to investing or buying art?
I would say a money hack would be, I would say, to organize everybody and to create the inflation. Like I was saying earlier, as far as like 10 of us get together, pick an artist and make this artist a hot artist. And next thing you know, your $1,000 that you spent is now worth 5,000, and we keep doing it. That's going to be the hack.
I like that. All right. Second question is, well, if it's the most important question, actually, where do people find you? How do we get to you? How do we start buying art? Let people know how to get in touch with you.
Okay. Yeah. One of the ways, you can pop my name in Google, Okeeba Jubalo. You'll find me. The other, my website is OkeebaTheMayor.com. OkeebaTheMayor.com. And then that's going to take you down a rabbit hole with all of my brands, all of everything that I do. Or you can go to OkeebaJubaloGallery.com or NobleSoul.net. But honestly, the quickest way, OkeebaTheMayor.com. And then you're going to get down that rabbit hole. And you'll find out everything that I have going on.
Before we let you go, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
The main thing is I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you on behalf of Black art and artists, and also the potential as far as like having. Normally, it's a hard thing for artists to speak to those who are financially savvy and everything. So it's just like when you look at the institution of finances plus art, and that can be a great marriage. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on behalf of the artists that work with me, and also the artists who will work with me, and just the Black artists that, not just Black artists, but definitely Black artists who are in the trenches doing this. So I just appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we are more than appreciative of you taking the time to talk to us about art, Black art, investing in art. For those who are watching now, for those who are watching later, I'm sure you got the gems. I'm hoping someone, if it's just one person, will now seriously think about investing in art. If so, we did our job very well today.
Yeah.
Until next time, you guys have a great one.